Yes, we are. What's up, you all? Haven't been live here in a minute, so I thought I would say hello to you. Hello. No, we're not doing that. Oh, shoot. Hello, how are you? Welcome. I have not been live on here for a minute. Hello, hello. Hey there, what's up? Doo-doo-doo. Apparently, there's like a really big blackout that's happening. Hi, Marco. There's a really big blackout that's happening, and super busy recovering from ACL and MACL surgery. Oh my gosh. Well, I wish you a speedy recovery for sure. Boston and eyes. Oh, what is going on with this blackout? Okay, apparently there are mass blackouts in Spain, Portugal, and parts of France. Every single part of digital life, from shops to traffic lights, hospitals, airports, phones, trains, all down. Oh my goodness. Spain, Portugal, and a few EU countries are in a total blackout. Train passengers in Spain got stuck in the middle of nowhere. This is insane. Oh my gosh. Caused by rare atmospheric phenomenon? What? Spain blackout due to atmospheric conditions. It sounds a little fishy, right? Hold on. Where's... Spain blackout. Okay. A blackout brought much of Spain and Portugal to a standstill on Monday, halting subway and railway trains, cutting phone service, and shutting down traffic lights and ATMs for millions of people across the peninsula. Spanish power distributor Red Electrica said that restoring power fully to the country and neighboring Portugal could take 6 to 10 hours by mid-afternoon. Voltage was progressively being restored in the north, south, and west of the peninsula. Wow. The company declined to speculate on the cause of the huge blackout. The Portuguese National Cybersecurity Center issued a statement saying there was no sign the outage was due to a cyber attack. Eduardo Prieto, hello, Clown Man, head of operations at Red Electrica, told journalists it was unprecedented, calling the event exceptional and extraordinary. That's actually kind of freaky that even the phones went out. And you can see images of this, people on the trains just kind of stranded outside of the trains. The outage hit across Spain and Portugal, including their capitals, Madrid and Lisbon. Offices closed. Traffic was snarled as traffic lights stopped working. It was not possible to make calls on some mobile phone networks, though some apps were working. And Barcelona residents walked into stores searching for battery-powered radios. is wild. And civilians directed traffic at junctions along the Gran Via Avenue that cuts through the city. The countries have a combined population of 60 million people. It was not immediately clear how many were affected. It is rare to have such a widespread outage across the peninsula. Spain's Canary Islands, Balearic, am I reading that correctly? Islands and the territories. Okay, I'm not reading any of that correctly. Maybe an EMP test. Ah! So this was written 7 minutes ago. Authorities said the cause was not immediately known, though one Portuguese official said the problem appeared to be with the electricity distribution network in Spain. Spanish Prime Minister convened an extraordinary meeting of Spain's National Security Council and visited Red Electrica to follow efforts at restoring grid operations. Portuguese Prime Minister Luis Montenegro said he has spoken to several times to Sanchez and expected power to be restored by the end of the day. Imagine being on a train and being stranded and not even being able to use your cell phone. Oh my gosh. The Portuguese cabinet convened an emergency meeting at the prime minister's residence. Portugal's government said the outage appeared to stem from problems outside the country, an official told National News. It looks like it was a problem with the distribution network. Apparently in Spain, it's still being looked into. Portuguese distributor E-Reads said the outage was due to a problem with the European electricity system, according to Portuguese newspaper Expresso. The company said it was compelled to cut power in specific areas to stabilize the network. The blackout is the second serious European power outage in less than 6 weeks after the March 20 fire shut down Heathrow Airport in the UK, and comes as authorities across Europe grid against the sabotage backed by Russia. While the causes of the Iberian blackout are still being investigated, Teresa Ribera, European Commission Executive Vice President in charge of promoting clean energy. Oh, it's that clean energy. Told Spain journalists in Brussels there was no indications of a cyber attack in Monday's power outage, which she described as one of the most serious episodes recorded in Europe in recent times. Excuse me. Spain's public broadcaster RTVE said a major power outage hit several regions of the country just after midday local time, leaving its newsroom, Spain's parliament in Madrid, and subway stations across the country without power. A graph of Spain's electricity network website showing demand across the country indicated a steep drop around 12:15 p.m. Spanish airports were operating on backup electrical systems and some flights were delayed. The company that runs 56 airports in Spain includes, so that's according to them. In Lisbon, terminals closed and throngs of tourists sat outside in the sun and in the shade waiting for news about their flights. We haven't seen a plane arriving or departing in the 50 minutes we've been waiting here. Train services in both countries were to a halt. Video aired on Spanish television showing people evacuating metro stations in Madrid and empty stations with trains stopped in Barcelona. Spain's transportation minister Oscar Puente posted on X that it wouldn't be possible to restart trains later Monday, even if power returned. How are these people going to get home? The hunt for connectivity. Immediate concerns were which phone companies still had at least some spotty coverage. No, thank you. I'm good. But then you have the BBC saying power cut chaos in Spain and Portugal caused by a rare atmospheric phenomenon. That sounds normal. Breaking news, Spain and Portugal celebrate historic achievement. First renewable blackout festival. A roaring success. In a stunning victory for progress, major cities across Spain and Portugal plunged into darkness today, a bold, equity driven milestone being hailed by experts as a necessary recalibration of oppressive light privilege. You get a blackout, you get a blackout, and you get a blackout. Government officials, cloaked in the safety of candlelit diversity councils, were quick to assure citizens that the blackouts had absolutely nothing to do with their relentless obsession with renewable socialism or Marxist energy redistribution initiatives. Hi, Danielle, how are you? Instead, they blamed unexpected atmospheric challenges, otherwise known as nighttime. This is what success looks like, declared Iberian Minister for Sustainable Equality, Juanita de Powerless. Zero emissions, zero industry, zero functioning infrastructure. Welcome to net zero, where zero means zero. Source confirmed that during the outage, critical DEI teams remained operational, bravely identifying which marginalized communities were being most equitably electrocuted when traffic lights failed. True social justice, noted one gender energy equity analyst, is making sure everyone gets hit by a bus equally. I didn't even know this was a parody when I started reading it. Meanwhile, local media proudly reported that while trains, phones, and emergency services collapsed, Spain's Ministry of Fueling achieved its monthly KPI by holding an inclusive brainstorming session on how to decolonize electricity. Critics foolishly tried to link the blackouts to decades of grid neglect, mass immigration fueled demand surges, solar panels that don't work in the dark, and a population conditioned to think work ethic is colonial violence. But we quickly fact checked the experts who graduated with double majors in critical energy studies and queer wind turbine maintenance. As night fell over, the silent streets of Madrid, citizens were reminded that decarbonization is not just an economic transition, it's a spiritual journey into medieval living. Welcome to the future. Hope you brought a torch and a towel. That was fabulously written. So if you're new to this, Spain and Portugal are having a historic blackout where people are grounded from planes, temporarily stranded from their trains, and phones aren't working. Awesome. And they blamed it on an atmospheric occurrence, whatever that means. Wow. I'm doing really good, Danielle. Thank you for asking. Generator sales just skyrocketed. Absolutely. Well, we deal with that a lot where I live right now, or where I'm staying in Virginia. I swear the wind blows and the electricity goes out. I swear. It goes out so easily here. So yes, we definitely have a generator. And it's really scary. Like if you're someone that has if you're on an oxygen machine, or if you're on any kind of thing that requires electricity to keep you alive, which a lot of people are, that's a really scary thing to think about when the power goes out. Oh, and then Colorado Springs, we had a giant raid over the weekend at a club there. So this was a really big operation. Colorado Springs, Colorado. We obviously know Colorado is a lot of Tren de Aragua in Colorado. A lot of that going on. Also, Aurora, Colorado, which that was reported that several apartment buildings were being overtaken by Tren de Aragua, which is essentially what they do. That's what they do. That's how they roll. They commandeer things and take over, and they traffic. They do all that stuff. And there was already a bust earlier this year, about 3 months ago. There was a bust of a nightclub in Adams County, which is closer to Denver, and they had about 41 illegal immigrants and suspected Tren de Aragua members in that bust with this underground club. Essentially, what they would do is they'll like rent out warehouses or something, and then have these underground operations. So this was happening in Colorado Springs. Yeah, here we go.
DEA and the Rocky Mountain Division. So good morning, John Pullen with DEA and the Rocky Mountain Division. We're here on the scene of an underground nightclub where over 300 federal law enforcement, along with our local partners from El Paso County and Colorado Springs PD, executed an enforcement operation this morning. It's a drug investigation. We seized quite a number of guns. And took a number of people into custody. I think what I'd like for people to know as a result of this operation is that Colorado Springs is waking up to a safer community today.
Jonathan, give us some perspective here. 300 law enforcement officers. What brought about this kind of requirement, this kind of need to be here with that show of force?
So this is an underground illegal nightclub, okay? And what was happening inside was significant drug trafficking, prostitution, crimes of violence. We seized a number of guns in there. We had active duty service members who were running security at the club.
This part, so they had about a dozen active duty service members who were either running armed security outside of the club or were patrons in the club, some involved in some of these like illegal things. That is wild. They're probably going to be in really big trouble.
And involved
in Colorado Springs, there's a lot of military around there.
Some of these crimes. And in fact, we had over 100 illegal aliens inside as well. And those over 100 illegal aliens were taken into custody by ICE.
Active duty service members helping as security here. Can you elaborate on that at all?
So it's an ongoing investigation, but we had over a dozen active duty service members in the club tonight, either as patrons or working as armed security.
How many of those were detained and what are they facing right now?
So Army CID was one of our partners out here, and they're going to work with us on what the next steps for those active duty service members looks like.
You mentioned that this is a drug trafficking operation. Can you elaborate on any drugs you found, the amount, any charges you anticipate that could come out of tonight?
So as you may suspect, when the cops showed up at the door, most of the drugs hit the floor. And we did find cocaine. It looks like some pink cocaine or the Tusi. And there's a little bit of other drugs, but we haven't had time to test everything. But there were dozens of small packages of drugs that they've recovered so far that I have personally seen.
How we got to know this location?
This has been a long-term investigation by DEA and a number of our federal partners. And so we've been working on this underground nightclub for a number of months, doing undercover, surveillance, a lot of other work to identify what's going on here. And again, months-long information about drug trafficking and prostitution happening inside.
Wow, so they've been working on this for months. Wow, and this is crazy too. So under the Biden administration, 179 911 calls during the Biden years, and nothing happened to this club, Colorado Springs. Wow. Okay, listen to this.
Nothing happened. Guns, shoot. America is safer tonight thanks to Donald Trump. Last night, Brian, what they did, so to back up, during the Biden administration, they received 170 911 calls to that club alone. That club we were just watching, 170 calls. Wouldn't you think that would have been a red flag? Nothing happened. Guns, shootings, ag batteries, nothing happened. So under Donald Trump, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshals, ATF, ICE, everyone went in together. DEA led this investigation, went in, got 115 illegal immigrants, right, aliens in our country, arrested them, 2 with warrants, 12 guns seized. So what would happen in this club is you would go in, security would give you a menu of drugs. Cocaine, there's something new called pink cocaine, meth, you could go in a bathroom stall, get that, there was prostitution, all these things going on. And we just now identified a member of Sinaloa cartel was also in there. So,
whoa. And you guys, this is the part that is just wild to me. Our very own, we had service members, active duty service members that were running security at this place.
America is safer tonight thanks to Donald Trump.
Unbelievable.
At this nightclub frequented by MS-13 and Tren de Aragua members, happened in Colorado Springs, and they said it's part of an investigation into drug trafficking, prostitution, and violent crimes.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge arrest. And I know she was saying, Lawrence, earlier, they've been surveilling this for a long time.
That's right.
And they go in and they find all this illegal activity. Again, where is it happening in Colorado? Where is it happening? Colorado Springs. By the way, I was just there for a shoot for Fox Nation. And that's what happens when you have sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. They know where to go. They know how to party. They know how to take advantage of it. And it was literally is the underground economy.
Well, Brian, you know, we always get all these reports from all these reporters that have no idea about law enforcement. I always say, how do we...
You're going to be talking to her about...
Wow. I can't believe that. Over 170 calls.
Number of our federal partners. And so this has been a long-term investigation by DEA and a number of our federal partners. And so we've been working on this underground nightclub for a number of months, doing undercover, surveillance, a lot of other work to identify what's going on here. And again, you know, months-long information about drug trafficking and prostitution happening inside.
So you said there were 300 federal law enforcement. How many people were actually inside of this underground nightclub?
We estimate over 200 people were inside the nightclub when we came here tonight. And so that's why we needed such a large force. You know, anytime you're dealing with that many people, we want to do it safely, and that's what we did.
What is the nature of the nightclub? Are people facing charges? Everyone inside?
No, they're not. A lot of people were turned away. As I said, over 100 went into ICE custody. A few people went on state arrest warrants. They had outstanding warrants. And we actually have a few other operations pending right now across the city. We're waiting to determine if there'll be other arrests from those.
Did you guys face any immediate threats going in, or was everything just a smooth operation going in and out, making sure everything was taken care of?
Anytime there's 200 people, there's going to be a little bit of concern about safety, but overall, it was a safe operation.
Jeez.
In our investigation, we have noticed TDA, MS-13, and I believe Hell's Angels in this club.
What is happening?
I don't have the information about whether those members were there tonight, but we're still working through a lot of that because we have so many people in custody. We're working through a lot of the information about who's who.
Jonathan, after the
Hi, Nathan. I'm great. How are you doing today? We're listening to stuff about this bust that happened in Colorado Springs over the weekend. So this basically, I guess it was a warehouse that they would rent out. But basically this huge bust happened. They had about 300 agents that busted an underground club. There were over 200 people in it at the time. And they arrested over 114 illegal immigrants that are now, I believe, in ICE custody. There was a lot of like drug trafficking, prostitution, things like that happening. They're saying they had like MS-13 members in there. They had Tren de Aragua members in there. They even mentioned having someone who is a part of the Sinaloa cartel in there. including the Hells Angels. But here's one of the craziest parts. There were about a dozen active duty service members that were either patrons inside or running armed security outside. So they're in trouble. And apparently they had been like undercover, like going into this club for months. They had been investigating it, running surveillance on it. So they had been working on this for months. And during the Biden administration, they're now saying that they received over 170 911 calls about this place. And no one ever did anything. Hi, Manford.
Raid in Adams County back in January. You received criticism because you didn't have arrests. You talked about the cops went in.
Oh, okay. So you can't hear what he's asking right now. Basically, what he's asking, there was a similar raid that happened 3 months ago at an underground club in Adams County. That's a little bit closer to Denver. And they found 41 illegal immigrants, but no arrests were made. So he's asking, he's saying, you were criticized. This is the DEA in Colorado. He was saying you were criticized because nobody got charged with anything during that raid. So he's going to answer.
Drugs went to the ground. Are you expecting to be criticized here? And then how do you address those critics now?
So DEA is going to continue to work to keep our community safe, no matter what the criticism is, right? We are not going to accept drug trafficking and prostitution in our cities. And so absolutely Colorado Springs is waking up to a safer city this Sunday morning.
Can you talk to us about the local assistance and, how that all played out?
Absolutely. We had over 10 federal agencies in support of this operation, but we also had Colorado Springs PD and El Paso County Sheriff's Office supporting us.
2 more questions.
Obviously, Tony mentioned too the one in Adams County that also involved quite a bit of people who were here illegally. What do you say to anyone's concern or vantage point that these look like immigration operations happening under DEA operations?
These crimes go hand in hand, right? When we find drug trafficking and prostitution, unfortunately, we're finding a lot of illegal aliens. 200 people in this club, a lot of drug trafficking happened, weapons, prostitution, over half the people inside were illegals.
And then we had service members. This is crazy. Yeah, and then Nathan brought up the judges. Of course, yeah, you have these judges that they're basically harboring and hiding illegal immigrants. One of the judges, that female judge that got arrested, there were victims in her courtroom that were accusing this person of the person that was up for deportation, the illegal immigrant, that were accusing him of basically like harming them. And even still, women that were in the courtroom accusing him of that, and even still, she protected him. Yeah, they are. They're just doing it basically out in the open now. That's exactly what they're doing. And these people look like clown. Look at some of these people in this club that got arrested. I mean, they just look. What is that? What is that? What is happening? What is actually happening? Oh my gosh. Yeah, look at this. Look at that. No way. There will be only a few cities and states that will do something about this. Yeah. And despite all of this, you still have the governor of Colorado who's trying to keep everyone who's trying to keep all the illegal immigrants in his state. He's trying to protect them. No, Florida. Actually, Florida is Ron DeSantis did basically an executive order, or whatever you call it on that level. Ron DeSantis did an executive order, so his highway patrol, even, they're allowed to work with Homeland Security, and they're allowed to take people in. And they just had an operation last week where they got over around 800 people. So they had like a several day long operation where they nabbed about 800 illegal immigrants. in the state of Florida. That was just last week. So they're doing a really good job with trying to clean their state up. They still have a lot of crime in their state because of illegal immigration, but they're doing a good job cleaning it up. Oh yeah, all the trafficking. Drug trafficking, that kind of trafficking, all of it. Is Governor Jared Polis going to comment on the more than 100 illegal immigrants who were busted in Colorado Springs today? Were those illegal immigrants strengthening or enriching Colorado Springs community? Hi, Damien. How are you? I would say no, they were not. This is the former head of ICE Colorado.
People involved in this raid. Former head of ICE in Denver and a Heritage Foundation visiting fellow, and he, of course, joins me now. John, good morning to you. The sheer number of people involved in this raid, 300 law enforcement officers from 10 different agencies, arresting 114 illegal immigrants, some of them with serious criminal records. The numbers here stand out to me. What stands out to you regarding this?
Well, yeah, the numbers are incredible, but this is the second club that the DEA has raided since January with a large number of illegal immigrants. This operation was very well planned, very well coordinated by multiple agencies. It was not leaked, which is great because we had a leaked operation here in Colorado, and showing the DEA taking this down with all these multiple agencies is absolutely a good thing.
Yeah.
Former head of ICE in Denver.
They had 300 basically agents from across all these different agencies that were working for months on this operation. So that is pretty incredible. And it's actually pretty incredible that this went off as safely as it did.
The requirement, this kind of... Jonathan, give us some perspective here. 300 law enforcement officers. What brought about this kind of requirement, this kind of need to be here with that show of force?
So this is an underground illegal nightclub, okay? And what was happening inside was significant drug trafficking, prostitution, crimes of violence. We seized a number of guns in there. We had active duty service members who were running security at the club and involved in some of these crimes. And in fact, we had over 100 illegal aliens inside as well, and those over 100 illegal aliens were taken into custody by ICE.
Active duty service members helping as security here. Can you elaborate on that at all?
So it's an ongoing investigation, but we had over a dozen active duty service members in the club tonight, either as patrons or working as armed security.
Jonathan, give...
Wow. All right, that's the story. And then despite all of this, you have these judges, these activist judges that are actually harboring people in their homes so that they don't get deported. People also with criminal histories. Unbelievable. But that's everything I have for you guys right now. I'll probably be back later. I'm going to announce it in my community notes when the next live is. But thank you very much for joining, and you all have a wonderful rest of your well, it's afternoon now, but you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. I'll see you later. Okay, bye. We'll see ya.